Hello guys, and welcome to our first Vartia Electrics YouTube video. My name's Ben and we're going to be discussing whether your property is EV ready. Right, so let's get straight into it. The first thing we ask you when you're asking for an EV quote is whether you have your own driveway or not. If you haven't got a driveway, you can't, under UK regulations at the moment, have an EV charger. So for this property, as you can see, it's got its driveway, so this property will be fine. Now the next 9 questions we ask you is based around your electrical system and the safety. Now I've picked this property to have a look at on purpose because it does need a few updates, and I know most properties that we do view usually do, so I thought this would be a good example. If you live in a flat or an apartment, whatever you want to call it, you can have an EV charger, but you've got to have your own dedicated off-street parking, and there are some more permissions that are required. But again, when you call in, we can discuss that with you. What we'll do next, we'll have a look at the next 9 questions. We'll go inside and have a look at the electrical system as well. So here we are, glamorous life for an electrician, all folded up in the cupboards. So the second question we actually ask you is about your incoming supply, which is this main cable here. And what we ask you is whether it's a loop service. And an easy way to identify this is to see if you have 2 of these coming in. So what this is, if you imagine out in the road, you've got your main cable, and each house theoretically has a cable coming in, and that then supplies the rest of your house. But what happens sometimes is next door may not have a cable coming in from the road. What will happen, this will be your cable coming in, and then another cable will come out, and that will go to their fuse box or their main fuse cutout, which is this area here. So if you do have 2 cables, one coming in and one here, that means you've got a loop service. If you're not sure, you can ring DNO, which is your distribution network operator, and they can confirm for you. Again, this is another workaround. If you have a loop service, you can't install an EV charger until you have your own supply. But like I said before, if you ring the DNO, they'll arrange to come out, and that can be adjusted for you. So the third one we're going to ask you is, what is the size of your main cutout fuse? So let me show you where that is first of all. So your supply cable is this, which we talked about in the previous question, and this part here is your main cutout fuse. Now this is in black, yours may be in grey or a different colour, but it comes directly after the supply cable. And what we're looking for is this section here. This holds a fuse, and obviously the fuse can blow, but we're given a rating of that fuse. Mr. Cameraman, if you could just zoom in for me please. As you can see, it says 60 amps. So if the property were to reach over 60 amps, this potentially would blow. Now, I'm just going to explain this to you because it's quite important when it comes to an EV that we have a higher rating, but it doesn't mean we can't put an EV charger in. You can always get this upgraded after we've put the charger in, and all you do for that again is contact the DNO, and the DNO will come out and change this for you. Now, when we're talking about amps, what happens is everything in your household requires electricity, and it pulls a current, and what we do, we measure that in amps. So your lights may require 6 amps, your cooker may require 32 amps, your boiler might require 32 amps as well. So when they are on, they're actually pulling 32 amps. Now you can imagine in this property, if the cooker and the boiler are on at the same time and they're both demanding 32 amps, plus your lights, your TV, your chargers, whatever you may have going at the same time, it could quite easily blow this fuse. Now your car charger, the EV charger, they normally come in as 7.2 kilowatt. translated to amps, you're talking around 32 amps. So now we're well over the limit. So it is advisable that we get this upgraded. Now, the workaround for this, some of the EV chargers have a limiter on them, so they're actually very smart. What they do, they read, we put some clamps around here, and it will read how much current the property is pulling. And if it's pulling too much, the charger will then start dropping its amps to protect this fuse and stop it blowing. Right, question number 4 and number 5 is, do you have bonding? And what I'm talking about here is this cable here, which is the yellow and green cable. We should have one of these going to the water pipe, the stop clock, and one going to your gas meter as well. And we need to make sure they're adequate size. Now, I'm not going to go into the technicals of it, because for this property I know it doesn't have gas bonding, even though there are 2 cables running down here. And we're going to do a follow-on video where I install that bonding and I explain the importance of it. I do know that it has got water bonding, so I'm going to show you that example now. I'm going to climb out of this cupboard and go to the next one and show you what it actually looks like, just so you get an idea. Okay, so if we go over to this cupboard here, again a nice easy place to access as always. Right, I don't think Mr. Cameraman can get in here, so I'm just going to take the camera. Now, as you can see there, that's the same cable. What we're looking for is the yellow and green cable, and it's been clamped onto that water pipe. So that's your incoming water supply. And like I said, we've got a follow-up video coming where I'm going to install the gas bonding, and I'll show you where that is also. Question 6, we require your MPAN number, which is your meter administration point number. So normally you'll find this on your actual meter. Now, there isn't one on here, and even if there was, we'd blur it out because we don't want our lovely customer's number out on the internet. Where the best place to find it is usually on your electricity bill, and what we'll do, if you call in, we'll help you find it and identify it for you. Once we've installed an EV charger at your property, we need to notify some bodies to let them know it has been installed, so that's why we require that number. Also, if you are receiving a government grant, which are now due to run out but they may come back, they also require your MPAN number as well. Question 7 is around your consumer unit, or better known as your fuse box. So this part here. Now, what we're looking for when we're looking at this, to see if there are any spare ways to add a circuit breaker, which are these, to add one of these in for your EV charger. We actually require 2. So one is for something called surge protection. Again, I'm not going to go into the specifics for it, but I will do a separate video which explains it. But it's simply, it's what it says on the tin. It's in case of a surge, which could damage all your equipment in the house, which you might say, okay, that's fine, this TV and everything's replaceable. But if you've got your car coming off this, which you've paid thousands upon thousands for, that you might not be too happy about. So we highly recommend to get surge protection installed when you're getting your EV charger. The other breaker would be for your actual EV charger. Now, in this board, as you can see, there is no space, but this hasn't been labelled. So what we'd have to do is take this off, and if we're lucky, one of these actually might be spare, but we won't know that until we take this off. Now, let's go in the scenario that this is full, it is being used, and there isn't any spare ways. What we normally recommend anyway is we add in a small consumer unit here, wherever there's a bit of space, and that will be purely for the EV. That'll have the surge protection in it, and normally we try and future-proof it as well. So if in the future you decide you want to have solar, we'll leave a certain amount of spaces in there as well to add that on at a later date. Right, question 8. Now this ties in with question 9, and it's about the actual EV charger itself, of the location. Now what we ask you is where you would like your cable run. Now this isn't always a simple answer, and sometimes you do need some assistance with it, which is fine. You may need floorboards lifting, we may need to go through a few walls, whatever it may be, it's absolutely fine. This property particular, however, is going to be very, very easy because the garage wall is the other side. So after speaking to the client, what we're going to do, we're simply going to drill through, and that brings us to the garage. What we'll do, we'll walk round and I'll show you the route. So now we're on the other side of the wall. So on the other side of this wall is the consumer unit, or fuse box, whatever you want to call it. And the cable route we've decided to take is through here. So we drill a hole through here, the cable would come out, and we'll clip it along and take it all the way outside through the garage, drilling through here, and we'll take it around here. And then what we'll do, we'll talk about the location next and what best suited this customer. Right, the next thing to consider is the location of your charger. Now, you obviously can place it anywhere you like. We've discussed it with the client, so you can have it on this wall over here. You could have it over here. You could have it in here. You could actually have it in the garage as well if you wanted. Now, there's pros and cons. After talking through with the client, we've decided the best spot would be here. Mainly because the client parks their car over here, so it'd be closer. If you do put it over there, the only issue that you will have, the cable that runs from the charger to your car, that could potentially become a tripping hazard. So we've settled on putting it here. Now the other thing to consider is the height. It is recommended that it's fitted between 0.75 and 1.2 meters. So what I'll do, I'll quickly show this to you so you can just get an idea of the height that we're talking about. So on this particular wall, this we're talking about here, which is about 0.75. So between here and 1.2. So it's recommended we fit the charger in between these locations. So here is absolutely perfect for this particular client. Guys, that's it. So these are the basic questions that we ask before you get an EV charger installed. Now, this is the first in a series of videos that we're going to be releasing, and it's all going to cover EV charging related topics. So we're going to look at the installation process, we're going to look at the kilowatt versus kilowatt hours, what sort of charger that you may require, tethered, untethered. So if you like this video and it helped, subscribe, hit the notification bell button, and I'll see you on the next one.